Hi everyone, I'm Toby.
Hi, I'm Tammy.
And this is Totally On Brand. Where do we start talking about this from? Okay, the pause is as loud as our break, to be honest. Okay, so hi everyone. Some of you know us, some of you don't. We're here today to, I don't know, have a conversation about why it's taking us so long to kind of come back. And most importantly, you know, turning into a topic actually, like, what do you do when you have to stop something you really wanted to do and then you have to like pick back up? Yeah, it's going to be, I hope it's not an awkward episode, but yeah, it's important that Tammy and I actually do this today because first of all, I also want to say we still have like 3 episodes to release. So we're going to talk today about what has been happening with us, what we've been doing with our careers, how tough it has been to kind of adapt to changes that sometimes are a bit out of your control, and then getting to a point where you're like, okay, like it's okay, right? Mm-hmm. No one is judging you. Mm-hmm. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Like you dropped it, you're starting again, and you know,
absolutely,
it's fine, right?
Hopefully, that's what we can tell people who are listening and watching, that sometimes these things happen, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. How have you been? It's been, how long has it been since we sat on this chair?
Oh, please. Do we really want to admit it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's been 11 and a half months.
So you knew?
I knew.
Oh, okay.
I knew.
Okay.
I've been counting down. Okay, so should we dive right in?
I think we should.
Okay. Now let me ask you. So we have admitted that we both stopped, right? Why did you stop, and was it willingly?
Why did I stop? So I was pregnant and I was about to have a baby and I thought I could handle it. Mm-hmm. I already have like the restaurants to do. Mm-hmm. I had another project I was working on. I was in my writing bag and I don't know, I just couldn't keep up with everything. But you had warned me. Mm-hmm. You had told me over and over again, and so did Simi, that I was going to actually need a break to kind of focus on a baby. I didn't realize it was that intense in the beginning, so I had to stop. I didn't plan that the stop was going to be this long, but I'm actually glad I did it because now I feel, I don't know what I feel. I feel strong in the fact that I can pace myself without feeling guilty. I always feel like the feeling of guilt is one of the things I want to work on as a person because you just feel guilty. No one is chasing you. No one is judging you, but I just feel guilty. Yeah. What about you?
Well, I stopped because of work. Which wasn't something I thought would ever be a consideration, but I took a gig that required me to travel to Abuja every week. And it was just really hard to juggle, right? You know, finding time to shoot, finding time to post, finding time to promote, finding time to commit. And it was really time consuming because the job is quite busy, quite demanding. So it really was just a career pivot or like addition, because of course I had my own agency, but then adding on this extra role made it really hard for me to juggle.
What I want to know is genuinely, what are the emotions I'm sure this is not, for me, this is not the first thing I've picked up and I've had to pause on. And most times when I do that, I feel like I've failed at something, which it's a very tough thing for me to accept because in everything I do, I push myself to limits that I don't think are healthy. I would go through something to the end because I want to prove that I can do it without like falling. Yeah. So this has been exceptionally hard mentally for me. Yeah. Generally, because I sometimes felt like I even failed you as well. Like in terms of, we both said we wanted to do this. We had only released 3 episodes. We had 3 more. And somehow we just couldn't get ourselves to align for a whole year, and I found that very, very mentally tough. So I'm almost even grateful we're able to sit here today, because I'm even happy I have someone who was understanding enough and also didn't quit. Because do you get what I mean? It's easy for yourself alone. You would let it go. It's like, oh, it didn't work. But the issue is not that it didn't work. I couldn't put in the effort. So I guess for me is, what made you hold on? Like, is it a commitment to, how do I want to ask this? Is it a commitment to the person? Is it a commitment to the thing? Or like, why are you still here? I know my why, but I wonder what yours is.
That's a great question. So the first part of your question was about whether, I've dropped something before and how I felt. And I mean, to be honest, like we just said, like when I had each of my kids, I had to drop something.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah. So, it typically is work related, right? So with each of my kids, I had to drop something, which then made me feel like I was missing out on maybe, let's even call it like a whole solid year of productivity, because you can still work when you're pregnant, but then towards the end, and then when you have the baby, you're not so productive. You feel like things are being left, like that whole thing of, oh, everybody's moving ahead and I'm just here like nursing a baby. But it's like a cycle of life, because when you're doing it, somebody else is not doing it, but then they're doing it, and then like, because think about our reasons now are very different. Mine was professional, yours was more personal. And then the reason why I stayed, it's so interesting. I think at some point in this episode, we're really going to talk about our determination, because, girl, it's been like 6 months of trying to have a meeting. And it's like, and I think the reason why I stayed was because I was determined for us to see this thing through. Because when we started talking about it a year ago, we really knew what we wanted to achieve with it. We knew how we wanted it to be.
Were you tempted?
I wasn't, what I was? I was frustrated. Toby, I was never tempted to quit, ever. I was just frustrated. Calm down. Get out of here, man, girl.
I love you
No,
too.
it's not love. It's determination, like I said.
Fine.
I was determined for us to, actually do what we said we were going to do. Because the thing we said we were going to do was going to be so impressive at the end of the day. It was going to help a lot of businesses. It was going to help a lot of people. But then this episode is also to tell people that your journey is not straight. Like, things happen all the time. You know what I mean? And let me even tell you what I felt. One of the things I did feel was embarrassment. And I'll tell you why. Because the pause was so long that in that void, it felt like we had let our listeners down. So people will ask me about the podcast, and I'm like, oh, hello, my phone is ringing, sorry. Like I couldn't, I was embarrassed. So like, how did you feel embarrassed? And if you did, like, how did you, like, when people were asking you, tell me.
I'm a big advocate of like laying the emotions down. Like for me, it's embarrassment, shame, failure, confusion. Do I even, like, is this thing going to work? You start questioning yourself as well.
Absolutely.
In like those periods where something is not going according to plan, you start to ask yourself, was it ever going to work anyway? You start to like, doubt just creeps in. So I would say definitely shame, embarrassment, because I typically like to see things through, but I think in this season of my life, I'm learning like prioritization and positioning and just patience, because I mean, this morning I popped into Beyond Fitness, and it was my first time spinning in 2 years and 2 months, and it took me a lot to go there as well. But when I got there, everything just fit into place. Like, it didn't feel like 2 years and 2 months. So I think also our understanding of time and what you think you failed at also perhaps should be handled with a bit more grace. Because sometimes you think, oh, I've missed out, a year has gone, this has happened, everything has failed, and it's like, actually the world just carried on doing what it was doing, and you can meet it right back.
Do you know what's so funny? Sometimes when I think about people who are asking about the podcast, or people who haven't heard from us in a while, I start to think that in their own lives, you know, like when we were off doing things that took us away from our own journey or from the straight line, they were probably also dealing with things that took them away from their own straight line, right? Because I have so many friends who have changed careers, who've had kids, or maybe who have moved countries. Like everyone is just really trying to deal with what they can. And like you said, prioritization, you know, what is priority to you right now? Do you understand? Like, I would say that in the 11 months that we kind of paused, I won't lie, what was priority to me was my mental health, or like my ability to even just exist and be able to do the things that, you know, brought me a semblance of normality, right? And so it was at the back of my mind every day. You know, every day you wake up and you're thinking, oh man, what are we going to do about the podcast today?
Yeah.
But then you now have to like think about how you are going to prepare for your children's concerts when you're in a different state. Like, you know, you because for me, it was a very conscious thing, because I had to wake up every day, realize that I'm not in my home base, but I still have to do all the admin that belongs to my home base, right? Then I still have to do all my work that is in a different place, and then I still have to take care of myself and be healthy and drink water and, you know, exist and do all these things. And for me, it was like, okay, this podcast, I love you, but I'm just going to shift you down a couple of rungs on the ladder. Like maybe before you were number 4, now you're number 8, because there are other things that have taken precedence. But it doesn't mean I've dropped you.
No, I get it.
It just
like
means
you
that
never have to. Like I
it just
completely
means,
get it.
It just means
That's actually an interesting thing you just said. How do you prioritize knowing you have somebody else who's okay? You're doing something with someone. How do you then, if it's no longer priority to you, but it potentially is priority to someone else, how does one handle that? That's actually such a segue.
No, but it's
I'm
a good, do you know, it's a
curious.
good question. I think for us, coincidentally, we had big changes at the same time. Because
enough.
imagine, you know what would have happened if it was just like you had a big change and I was just the eager? It probably would have stopped.
I see what you mean.
We just coincidentally had like big changes at the same time. Very different big changes though. But, and you know what's funny, Toby? No matter what, and I will say this, see guys, it's very important to find a good podcast partner. I'm not going to emphasize this enough, because we kept checking in with each other. So like, sometimes we would have conversations where I don't know if Toby will admit this, but I know that we were skirting around the real fact that really we should talk about the podcast. But I'll just be like, oh my God, how's my baby? And then she'd be like, oh my God, how's Abuja? And then we would just check in and we would talk. But it just reminded us to keep checking in with each other, because one day the hard conversation will actually come where we'll be like, okay, babe,
Fair enough.
it's been 6 months. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And we did that consistently.
Yeah.
Do you understand? We did that consistently because we knew we didn't want to give up on it. We just knew
Not
that there
even
was...
just that. I feel like we also were, like you said, Shami, because we're both going through changes at the same time, it enabled us to be like graceful
Exactly.
with each other.
Yeah.
Because then, is it my state where I've not done the work you gave me that I would be upset, or in your state where you've not done the work? So it was really good.
Yeah, that was...
So, what are we even... I think for me, another part of picking back something you dropped is the confusion of how you even kickstart. Like, I feel like people have moved on. Like, people are maybe no longer interested. But I know it's a silly way to think, because I know it's not true, but I cannot help thinking that. Like, what is... Okay. I don't know what it means that we're picking back. What exactly are we even saying we're picking back up? Like, I'm trying to really figure that out. And how do we think, or what is your strategy on how we're going to kick this off again? Yeah.
My strategy for this is just blind optimism. I'm not gonna lie to you. So the thing is, I think that we presented a very valuable podcast in the beginning, right? So we had a lot of people asking us about it, and a lot of people related to it, because, you know, we're talking about something that isn't really talked about in this side of the world on a podcast, right? So people were really like, okay, this is cool. I like this content. And then we disappeared. But then I think that because it was so valuable in the beginning, and we're coming out to be really honest and authentic, and to just say, guys, we're so sorry that it's been a year, but, you know, we want to come back stronger. I think that the optimism is what's taking me through. Like, there will be some people who'll be like, oh, you know, maybe they weren't cut out for podcasting. And then they will create a whole new audience, because, you know, the audience we had a year ago they're there, but they're now a new crop of people, because in the last year, people have started businesses. People are dealing with the
That's
economy.
true,
People are
actually.
dealing with hardship. People are like, how do I make money?
There's still stuff to talk about.
There is so much stuff to talk about. In fact, I would say the last year has given us so much content. You know, like
I feel like you have a lot of business content over the last year, because you whereas for me, a lot of what I can tell you is how to make a nice spinach pancake.
That is a lie, girl.
An 8-month-old
That
child.
is. Let me tell you what you. In fact, see, I love this. You know what I love? I love that now we have two separate streams of new audiences, because before we didn't have the audience of new moms.
Fair enough.
I was not a new mom. You were not a new mom.
Yeah.
Now you can be like, how am I running 3 consecutive businesses and a podcast and have a 9-month-old? Like,
yeah,
it's a new audience. And then I can also obviously talk about how to deal with, you know, work situations changing. I think we'll be fine. And I think that we'll be fine because if we were this determined through 11 months of inactivity, then we'll be fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, if you put it that way, fair enough.
Yeah, I think so.
How do you think people will receive it? Like, what do you think? Do you know what? People are thoughtful. When I posted this morning,
I was going to ask you, what did they respond?
They were like, no, like, trust me. Like,
I got the
happens.
same thing. Yeah.
Like, everyone was like, it's normal.
Yeah.
So I feel like people will be thoughtful.
Yeah.
But thoughtfulness sometimes does not equate to action. Because what we want is for people to listen, engage. Like, do you think we're going to get that, or until we actually like prove consistency? And I ask this question because sometimes you have to check yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot ask people to subscribe to something
if it's not consistent.
Because then you're also throwing off.
Yeah. You're not delivering on your promise.
Yeah.
Because a podcast really is a promise. It's like, okay, every week for however many weeks, we're going to bring you content on this topic.
Right.
If you just disappear for a year, after 3 episodes that were really engaging and fun, how do we know you're not going to do it again?
Yes.
Well, I mean, 2 ways for me in my mind. Like, one of the reasons why I was really excited to do this episode was to kind of be held accountable, right? Because, you know, we could literally have just started releasing the next 3 episodes and then done season 2. But that would be like a slap in the face to our engaged audience, because now we're telling them that, look, this is the reason why we took a pause, because you have a baby, but now your baby has a routine. I have a job, but I kind of can navigate the balance a little bit better. So I think that our listeners, who, again, like you said, have been very graceful towards us, are going to understand that, and they're probably also going to think about it like this. You know, when you start a new business and your family members are really, really happy and they're really like excited, but they're not always the ones that patronize the business. Right?
Always.
So for me, it's like that. The people who listened to us before were a large mix of people we knew, but people who were new to us. I think those people who are new to us that just took value from the episodes as they were would be like, oh wow, this episode is even telling us that it's okay for us to stop something and start again. Yeah. So they validated us, but they've even promised us more value. Yeah. So for me, I actually feel like we would not only get a new and interesting, like more interested audience, which we would love to engage with, obviously. But I think that our old audience would also understand. I don't think that's, to be honest, I won't lie, that was never a fear of mine. I think it was more the shame of having to say sorry. Yeah. That we've been gone for such a long time.
Yeah, it's a very long time.
It is, quite.
And in terms of picking back up, for me, I feel like the hardest part, another hard part I find, is now actually like being consistent and being able to channel the objectives. Basically, they were old objectives, but they're also new objectives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And marry those two objectives to be able to, because a year is a long time. Like, I feel like a different person compared to last year, like complete different person. Yeah. So the things that interest me, the things I wanted to talk about, like, has slightly morphed, and I'm still trying to figure out how to like navigate. Or when we look at a document, how do we marry old objectives with new objectives? Yeah. So that's quite interesting.
You know, it's funny. Consistency really is the only way for anything to grow, and I think that if anything, this is a case study in determination, because again, like we keep saying, it's been a year and we didn't drop it. We didn't give up. We didn't let go. So this is a case study in determination. I think that you and I, just even to take it away from like the general, but like the specific of you and I, is that we're very determined about this podcast. So if we say that we want to be consistent, I believe that we can be. and that we will be. Marrying the two is but it's been our greatest challenge now. We spend hours on our Google Docs like, okay, how do we fine tune this?
Yeah.
How do we do that? But we've always found a way to kind of get it done, right?
Yeah.
I think that because we've come out of a very, there's like hills and valleys. I wouldn't say I was in a valley, but I would say that it was definitely not a hill. Like I wasn't like on top of anything. I was under a lot of stuff. I think I don't feel like that. I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel like I'm under anything.
I'm so happy. You seem so much more. No, honestly, the past year I watched you go through so much.
It was a lot.
You feel so much more. You feel lighter.
Yeah, because I've gotten a grasp on the situation. Like it's anything that requires a lot of change is hard. So imagine like being in a different state. That's already one. Then being away from your kids. That's one. Then getting on flights. Yuck.
Then
that's
the
one.
job itself.
Then the job is hard and it's tasking. It's rewarding, but it's tasking. And it's important, but it's also different from what you're used to. That's another one. But then after a year, like with all things, all human beings, time, you adjust, you adapt, you kind of get used to it. You create systems and processes that work for you. You create a support system that works for you. And it's the same with you, because Toby, I saw you, and this is the thing, guys, Toby's one of the most process-driven people I've ever met in my life. Like, she has a process for everything. If Toby wants to, she has a process for how long her lights in her house are going to be on, and she probably has a process for like.
No, yeah, don't be in that corner smiling and laughing.
Like everybody knows that if Toby
she knows, I have a process for
Toby has a process for it. If Toby wants to wash her hair, there'll be a process document. These are the steps. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna do it.
I almost feel like I should be embarrassed, but I don't know.
No, guys, it's a compliment. It's a compliment.
I absolutely
then imagine
it.
a process-driven person having a baby. A baby, the biggest.
She's so processed out.
The biggest destroyer of processes is a baby.
I can't even lie.
And you manage that
I was really
with
humbled.
You were humble, but you still have processes for Tumi and it shows.
I
guys.
do.
I hope
Yes.
if you don't follow Toby right now,
cry.
Is she napping?
No, I mean I don't hear her cry because everything is processed.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I tried to say, Toby, can I have a meeting? She was like, no, that is when Tumi eats, naps, sleeps, plays, and it's fine, But so no, I'm not gonna lie. With Nyla, my first daughter, I was if I show you my notes. 2 p.m., 4 with Zora, I was like, go forth and prosper. Live your best life.
People say that with the second one.
Live your best life.
Different. No, but honestly, I've said this before, I'm so glad we're back at it. The interesting thing for me is, another thing I wanted to share is another reason it was really hard is because we're also bootstrapping. We actually were doing a lot by ourselves. So we were producing it. We had Timmy.
Yeah.
We had Lubem, but we're still ideating. We still had to know what we wanted to do. We're not housed in a studio or anything like that. So I hope now that we finally found a studio, it will be better. Like hopefully we can have some consistency. Yeah. But how do you feel about releasing the episodes we have shot already?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm also a little bit shy about that.
Me too.
Because it's like,
me too.
Does it feel outdated? Like, do you think people will still enjoy them? I mean, we're gonna do it anyway, but
please be kind, guys. we're gonna we're gonna do it. I don't think it feels outdated because the things we're talking about are things that people experience regardless. They experienced them 30 years ago. They're experiencing them now. Maybe the only thing that will be outdated is maybe specific references that we make, but I don't think they will be outdated. I think they were still good, and we've watched them. We recently rewatched them, and I think they would still be valuable to people. But the context of this episode is very important before
that
going into.
Timmy, I have one quick thing to share with you.
Oh please, what is this?
So, before we shot this, I had to go on so many podcasts. I went to maybe different 5. Yeah. I tried to do some in the States, some in the UK, and some in Lagos. And I was checking their timelines to see if they ever had stops, just to make myself feel better. I don't know if that was a healthy thing to do.
I don't know that it was.
I don't know. But I did that anyway. I thought let me share. Because I couldn't help but wonder, compared to other people and other podcasts, it was a very long break to then come back together. Most people would go and maybe it's only one person back, or they
a
would
different
just let it
partner
go.
or like a
so
third
I just
person,
needed
yeah.
like research. I
Yeah.
wanted to see if there was a base case anywhere.
Yeah.
To see like, okay, how did they handle it? What did they do? How did they do their comeback? Like, did they do a campaign? Did they just sit down and talk about it? Like, I just wanted to know, so I just thought I'd share that with you. I don't know if it was wise, but
I have my own confession to make. So in the year that we were not, active, I basically spent a long time watching other podcasts. But my reason
That's
wasn't
great.
but my reason wasn't to see if they had a break, actually, which is funny because that should have been my reason.
No.
My reason was to just, it was almost like self-punishment. So I was almost like, God, if these people can do this consistently, so
Why
can
can't
I.
you not be thinking
so
they
can
have
I.
2 heads?
Like, what is going on? Like, why can't I do this? And it kind of kept me willing to just be like, okay, Tammy, give yourself some grace, but you're coming back.
Interesting though that spirit of comparison is actually the cornerstone of the embarrassment and shame, because
Yeah, it is.
you're almost processing
Yeah.
that if others can have consistency,
Why can't you?
can't I? As
Yeah.
opposed to just like
Yeah.
isolating.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that came from being a Nigerian daughter, man. The
And
parents would be
what,
saying,
for me,
like,
it was the first
that boy
daughter.
that came first.
Does he have 2 heads?
Does he have 2 heads?
Just like, I feel like I said that to Naila before. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that I haven't said it to her before.
I mean,
but it's ingrained within us. But I think it was more so like, okay. But then you know what's funny? One person said to me that yes, they've been consistent now, but it took them 3 years to start. So they were like, you don't know anybody's journey, you don't know anybody's story. And then the truth is, you just said it before, we're bootstrapping. Some people have the privilege of having a studio right out of the gate. We really did what we did by ourselves.
yeah.
We did it when it was a little bit difficult because you were already pregnant.
Yeah.
I was already kind of knowing that I have this job. Like, and so why don't we turn that shame into pride?
Yeah.
I think we should. I think we should be proud of ourselves. Even for
Are you
sitting.
proud of yourself?
I am now. I wasn't then, but I am now.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think, but I'm extra hard on myself anyway. So hopefully once we release the 3 and I know that, okay, we really actually finished. Can I ask you, why are we so obsessed with finishing that season? Why did we not just
Do the filler and then
and then move to a
Season
new
2.
season? Because I can't let those 3 episodes go.
So my
Personally.
own thing is that there was value in those episodes. Like I was like, you
Fair
guys
enough.
are going to hear what we said and you're going to learn from it by force. But it was because there were valuable episodes. I think one thing I've loved about us is that even though we've questioned our consistency and our whatever, we've never questioned the quality of our content. Do you know what I mean? Like
Fair
we've never
enough.
said to ourselves like, oh, do you think
Yeah.
that like we know what we're talking about and
Yeah.
who we're targeting. Our biggest issue was just being consistent, which obviously, hopefully, fingers crossed.
But I feel like we've not even dented what we have said we want
not
to
even a
do.
little bit. I mean, 6 episodes is very little.
It
you know,
is, right?
We have hundreds of episodes worth of things that we like to say
talk
to
about.
people, and then obviously feedback from our audience to just be like, this is what we want to hear. This is what is really pressing.
Yeah.
Having more guests on the show.
Are you still confident that the direction we set out to do in the beginning, are you still confident in that direction, or has it changed a bit for you?
We've adapted it a little bit to like maybe real life situations, but I'm very confident in the vision that we had in the beginning, and I like the fact that we have stayed true to it. Apart from consistency with like timelines, it's also about consistency of content. I don't want our podcast to just be like all over the place. It's very specific, it's very focused.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
we do have a lot of work to do, Sha.
We do. We do. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask you some questions. Just quick fire. Pa, 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 pa.
Go on.
Rapid. Yeah? We've already covered a lot of this, but this one I like. What have you learned about yourself in this period? About you specifically, Toby, not about the podcast.
That I'm a fucking G.
Okay. Period.
Okay, that was the little you gave me that opening and I had to take
Period.
it.
Please don't edit that out, guys.
Honestly, that I am so resilient. Like I can't even begin to communicate the the depths of what my brain has done, my brain and my body has done in the past 9 months. For me, it's deeper than just having a baby. It's having a baby, it's thinking through that baby's sustainability, through my sustainability, through work sustainability, making sure just because I had a big personal change, nothing in the restaurant was going to be different. You know, like I made sure I kept trying myself to, you know, reminding myself to be happy, not to be bogged down. I went through a very depressive episode, but I had to like pull myself out of it. But honestly, that I am very, very resilient, and I genuinely believe in the power now of pacing yourself and prioritizing. I've learned that if I don't learn how to prioritize, I will never be who I'm destined to be. So yeah, I would say, learn that I'm resilient, I'm tenacious, and most importantly, I'm actually like the coolest kid on the block, honestly, and I'm so smart.
You are.
I learned that I am very smart too.
You are, and that you're a chef also. You're a secret chef. Toby.
So yeah, I would say the tenacity one, honestly, is my biggest takeaway. What about you? I actually like that question. What have you learned about yourself?
I mean, I feel like I should just echo everything you said. I mean,
We're the same.
I feel like the biggest thing I've learned about myself is that I can do hard things. Right? So let's break it down. Okay?
Can you lift 150 kg deadlift?
I can, but then my back will break. So is the question, just be specific about the question. I can, but it would hurt for like several weeks after. I learned that I can do hard things, and not just hard things, because there's no point doing a hard thing for no reason. I can do hard things for the greater good of something else, right? I can do hard things.
Fingers to that. No, that's a quote. I can do hard things for the
greater good of
other things. That quote is making my page. So when you see it and I quote Timmy, don't forget that quote.
Please put a picture of me beside it.
Can you write that quote? Please.
Can do hard things for the greater good of other things. So I am not promoting suffering, okay? I'm going to tell everybody that I'm not promoting suffering, but I am promoting putting the good of other things before your comfort for a period, right? So let me explain. I will never let my family dynamic suffer, which means that, because a lot of people ask me, you got this gig in Abuja. Number one, why don't you move your family to Abuja? Or number two, why don't you stay in Abuja for longer? And I'm like, okay, my family dynamic will forever be my North Star, which means that I won't let it change. So I'm not going to take my children out of their comfort zone, but I will make sure that I don't let them feel my absence. So what that means is I was traveling to Abuja every single week. So I'm waking up at 4 a.m., getting on the first flight, going to Abuja, going straight to the office, working the whole week, going back to Lagos on Friday, and repeating it all through the month. And I did this for 10 months. That is a hard thing for most people.
It is very hard.
And it's a hard thing for me.
I actually hate work travels. It's not easy.
And it's a very hard thing for me. But then the reason I did it was because I believed in the position that I was working in. And I believed in the value that I was adding. And I did it. And I did both. I did the hard thing, but I did the good thing at the same time. So what this has taught me is that I am also resilient, and I'm also tenacious. And I also feel like a lot of people need to remind themselves of their tenacity. A lot of people know they're tenacious, but they're like, nothing has really stretched me. A lot of people need to remind themselves of their resilience. Like, I'm a bad bitch. Do you understand? Like, I'm at work. I'm at work. I'm fine. I'm a mom. My children are smart. Then I'm now also, it's a lot. It taught me, so coming back into the podcast with this, like, you learning and me learning and us, like, ready to give value to people.
It's actually going to be even more powerful.
I feel like we should start a movement. I feel like we should start a movement of, I don't know if it's a movement, because women now, they know these things, you can do a lot, but it's good to know after like a hard period that, okay, it's not like I was just suffering and I was crying and I was upset. No. It taught me. It taught me how to do something better, and it taught me how to like manage. And prioritize, which brings me.
What you just said now just gave me more confidence than before we even started shooting this, because we sound like we've learned enough that it would even kind of add so much more value, because I cannot wait to hear everything you have done over the last 10 months. I'm currently expanding on the restaurant, and I'm working on another big project as well.
Wait.
And like, I cannot wait for us to kind of dive into those things and like show people that honestly, your dreams can take long, but if you're tenacious, like, you will still get there. Like, I love everything you just said now. It was actually so awesome to hear. Honestly, like...
Why are you making me shy, Toby?
Yes, because life is hard. Work
It is. It's hard. It's hard.
It's so when you hear people doing hard things, you realize that God is just not after you.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is kind of going through it and trying to come out on the other side.
Yeah, and it's true, that thing about reminding yourself that it's not a unique experience. Like, it's not just you that is suffering, or it's not just you that's going through a hard thing. A lot of people.
Do you prioritize... Well, actually, no, I can answer this question because you don't. How are you able to figure out, or how were you able to keep this alive, even though we know we're not making any revenue from it, but then we also need to make money to kind of keep our work going round? So how is this? So does that mean you're passionate about stuff? How do I want to ask this question? How have you like carved out your life where you know this one is bringing me money, this one is passion, this one is my CSR? Like, how are you able to combine everything, and why have you stuck to this if it's not bringing revenue? Because that's one of the questions I asked I'm not gonna lie, I asked myself at one point. I was like, okay, we've taken a break. Is Kuku not bringing me money? I started to justify things in my head. Why am I stressing about it? But eventually I realized that I get so many questions about business, work, entrepreneurship, career goals, that is such a passionate avenue for me to share. And that in itself is just as strong as making money. That was my realization. I don't know what yours was.
So I feel like you read my mind, because it wasn't even just like me. It was also, I don't know, like if you ever vent to like your support system and you're like, oh, I really want this to work. And sometimes they're like, why are you even stressing yourself? This thing is not bringing in revenue, because at this stage in our lives, we are building for the future, and obviously that is directly tied to money. So if you're spending a lot of hours on something that isn't bringing in return, it's like, why am I doing this? I like to think that when I'm passionate about something, and I don't even think it's intentional, you are very intentional, but I think mine is a bit more passive. It's like, I'm passionate about this thing. I don't really tell myself I'm passionate about it, but I know that my mind and my body and my soul knows I'm passionate about it, because I just keep pouring into it. I truly believe that this will become a revenue generating venture.
Amen, hallelujah.
Guys, you can help us make that happen.
Yes, please.
But I just know that it is necessary. I can't really explain why.
What is?
But I know it is necessary, and anything that is necessary and consistent ends up making money.
And she dropped another quote on
sorry,
us.
guys, I can't just help myself. I'm just so smart.
Say again. Do you remember? Because I don't remember, but it was powerful.
She said that anything that is necessary and consistent will generate revenue.
Hey, it's making
Think about it
true.
now.
No, but it's true.
It's true. It's actually true. Anything in this world that has ever been necessary to human beings and consistent has brought money.
I like that.
That's the definition of a content creator and influencer, really.
I really
think about
like
it.
that.
Like, if you're just... So I just know that it is. And that's it. I can't really say... I mean, there's so many things that could be bringing me more money that I could be spending my time on, but I just don't...
Yeah.
I don't have the passion. But how would you answer this question? Because you actually own several businesses that rely on
cash flows and revenues. Yeah. I feel like that in itself is why this is actually a breath of fresh air, because I am interested in doing something that I can't see a cash flow. There's no spreadsheet. It's literally just tapping into my mind, my body, my soul, and the knowledge I have garnered or gathered over a period of time that I believe I want to share with people so that they too can successfully do something or successfully avoid something. And I say that very clearly because with everything I've done, there are mistakes and there are successes. And I want to share enough so that if you can avoid my mistakes, please do. If you can compound on my successes, please do. And that is, for me, one of the biggest gifts God has given a lot of us to gift human beings. I say God doesn't come down, or you don't truly understand success or feel successful until you can pass knowledge down to somebody else who is then going to use that knowledge to do something. So I feel like while this is not revenue generating, it is generating another type of revenue. And the social impact, the commercial impact of what we're doing is actually priceless to an extent. And I really, I've been looking for something in my quadrant of life that taps into that. So I would say that's my reason. And I like you. I like I like smart women. I like being around them. I like working with them. And growing up, everyone had this whole connotation about working with women together was very tough. And I agree. But I like to test and push the boundaries because I feel like there are many great women out there who are just as keen to work with another woman in something. And I feel like I've always loved your skill set and I've always loved your passion with business and your work ethic that I want to be around it all the time. So this kind of enables us to like do that together and then share that with the world. I think it's more powerful than me just going at it alone. So I think those are my reasons.
So we're basically just both fangirls because, yes, that's one of the reasons why I'm also working with you is because...
I love you too.
There's love everywhere. I mean, I love that answer because it really does tap into a lot of people's desire to help other people, but not really knowing how. So, you know, and one thing, another thing that I did do in the past 10 months is, I don't know if you noticed that all of a sudden podcasts started getting a bad rap.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was more so maybe like the podcasts that were like I won't say advisory, but like there was this whole thing about men having podcasts, which got a bad like rap.
I think I heard a bit about that.
Then it now kind of transcended into podcasts as a whole. Like, you know, another person with another podcast. You know, people are, and then you know there are a lot of podcasts that maybe are solely to diminish other people, or you know, like maybe like you know, and I just kept thinking to myself, no, I'm not going to let this derail me. I'm not, because our plans, and obviously if you stick with us on this journey, you will find out that our plans for this podcast, they completely transcend like just sitting and talking. There's so much that we want to do. There's so many people we want to talk to. There's so much value we want to bring. There's so much intelligence we want to tap into. So, I mean...
I'm very big on work. Like, I'm a workaholic. So I feel like I'm excited for this because literally, like, I hope we can be a stopgap or a spot for you guys to take away career information, entrepreneurship information, and, you know, just figure out how to work with your career. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of things will get a bad rep at some point. I think podcasts are great. I think you can never get enough because there's 7 billion people in the world. And for the first time, we're all finally talking to each other. And media is not the sole information giver. Now you can hear from people's mouths directly. So, yeah, I really think they're great. And shout out to people doing podcasts. It's not easy.
It's hard.
I was fooled.
It's actually hard.
I thought we were going to sit here and talk and just...
No,
there's a lot of prep. There's a lot of intentionality.
There is.
Yeah. Okay, so honestly, this filler episode is literally just to say we're slowly getting our feet wet. We're slowly getting back into it. We had to stop. Life happened. We're going to release our 3 episodes that we haven't, and then we're going to start a new season afresh. It was just important we did this because not addressing it would have been awkward, like just literally like posting an episode. So
you guys deserve the truth, to be honest. I feel like people need to be spoken to, like, honestly. Yeah, I
But
agree
I'm
with you.
happy we're here.
Very happy.
Very happy.
I'm happy
This
to
is
see
fun.
us back on this couch.
I know. It's probably our last stint on this couch at this point.
I know. So it's kind of nostalgic as well.
It is. We're going to a studio.
I'm excited. The last thing I would say, or I would ask you, or just to kind of like let our listeners know, is in all of this, how have you taken care of yourself?
Ooh. That's a tough one for me because I think I'm still learning again how to take care of myself. But I'm learning. It's such a busy period for me. I cannot say, well, I think I'm still learning. I'm learning what my new likes are, what my new dislikes are. It's no longer just me. I have a little person who my whole schedule revolves around, so I'm just trying to figure out what next. But take care of myself. I do the fitness, meditation. I'm not able to read books at the moment because I just don't have the time. And trying to spend more time with people I genuinely love and make time. Like, it's one of the things I struggle with even without a baby because I live in my own head. So I might be present, but I'm overthinking. So I think I'm learning to kind of stay away from that person I used to be and actually spend time with people and not kind of embrace loneliness too much. Yeah, it used to be such a thing for me before that I was by myself, but I don't think. So yeah, I guess the typical fitness, meditation, still learning, to be honest. I still haven't figured out how to fully take care of myself.
Okay.
What about you? I think you've mastered a little bit of it, and I see it. I could be wrong, though.
No. I think that it's been phases. Like in the first, maybe the first half of this break that we were in, I wasn't taking care of myself.
Of course.
I wasn't at all. Like, I wasn't taking care of myself. And then I got to a stage where I was like, if I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of my people. Right? So my people need me to be well. And they need me to be present and rested and all of those things. But everything you said, look, you just carve out small time for yourself. Go to the gym, cook something you like, eat something you like.
I hate cooking.
Except for me.
Yeah.
I love cooking.
I like eating what I like, but I don't want to.
Listen, that was another thing that really annoyed me in the first few months. I couldn't cook. I didn't cook. And I was like, wow, a part of me is missing.
That's my dream.
So I just took some time to, do the things I love. And that's it. Spend time with people you love. That's it. Just spend time with people you love. And on that note.
Yes. Biggest message, don't be ashamed. Don't be embarrassed. Everyone is winging it and everyone is going through something. And at some point, most people will have to pause. It might not be a long pause. Stop something. Want to re-strategize. Life has happened. Yeah, but honestly, people will wait. I mean, let's look at it as shows. Like, the season ends, you wait. Like Game of Thrones, you wait for a long time. 2 years?
2 years.
And they release it again and we're all back on it. So
yeah,
I'm
love
actually
that.
channeling
I like
that
that
energy. So like,
I like that.
Honestly, like, don't feel any type of way.
Yes.
Like,
agreed.
Yeah, like you will still be okay. I guess we can leave it at that. Thank you for listening.
And on that note, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, leave comments, and also give us some examples of when you've had to stop and start, or when you felt, maybe you had to put something down to prioritize another thing. Just with us. Give us stuff. Give us things. Tell us that we are making the right choice, or tell us what you think.
Thanks for listening to Totally On Brand. See you soon.